Okay. So thank you, Dr. Vijayan. Thank you, Dr. Anil Gaur, for inviting over here. And we certainly see this a great a platform to share not only the knowledge and even the ongoing issues in the green hydrogen technology. Before proceeding further, actually, let me just introduce myself briefly. I was a professor in the US at Texas State University. And before that, I was actually a professor at University of Michigan and Texas State University. And then I was an entrepreneur also in parallel. I had a lithium-ion battery startup, and then we sold it out. Then I moved to India in 2019, 2020 around. This is my second startup. I was more into water treatment. And this is my third startup in hydrogen. So before getting into the talk, I'll show you the video which we just started as a company on green hydrogen using the seawater. Can you please play the video? The first one. Audio, please. Audio is off. Audio. You could stop it and play the audio. The audio is missing, please.
More sustainable energy solutions.
Some
Emerges
more
GreenXL,
volume,
the game
please.
changer in green hydrogen technology. Say goodbye to the limitations of hydrogen production technologies using fossil fuels in electricity, where hydrogen gas storage, transportation, and massive infrastructure are mandatory for the delivery of hydrogen to the customers under high-pressure conditions. Unlike these methods, GreenXL doesn't require any power and operates at atmospheric pressure, making it safer and more efficient to the customer delivery. Picture a future where power isn't just renewable, it's self-sustaining. GreenXL is revolutionizing the way we harness hydrogen energy. Built on circular economy principles, GreenXL transforms waste materials into clean and reliable hydrogen energy with on-site and on-demand production capabilities. Imagine harnessing the power of the sea. GreenXL's technology thrives on seawater, making it a coastal paradise's energy hub. In addition, GreenXL's technology is extended to harnessing the power of the industrial effluent as well, especially textile industry wastewater and brackish water from RO plants. GreenXL's technology thrives on developing groundbreaking and unique technologies for hydrogen and energy generation. Our innovative business model is inspired by battery swapping and vending machines and ensures easy and cost-effective delivery of hydrogen to customers and various applications. At the heart of GreenXL is Dr. Guduru, a visionary scientist and inventor of this groundbreaking technology. With over 3.1 million funds raised and numerous international patents, Dr. Guduru's legacy is reshaping energy solutions for a greener planet. In the dynamic world of energy exploration and innovation, one name stands out as a beacon of excellence: Dr. Rakesh Vij. He is a distinguished scientist and visionary businessman and former executive director of Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. His journey has been nothing short of inspiring, marked by groundbreaking achievements and a relentless pursuit of innovation. Join us in shaping a cleaner, brighter tomorrow. GreenXL, empowering the world with accessible, eco-friendly hydrogen energy. GreenXL, fueling the future, igniting change.
Thank you. So now we'll go to the presentation, please. So that is just a startup company we initiated recently based on a 2-year project that we conducted with the Shell funding. Shell Energy India supported us in developing the technology there. So in today's talk, I'm going to be talking about what is it exactly happening, as of now in either in India, even abroad, in terms of hydrogen implementation, how these things really started. Even the green hydrogen part, working on solar energy and using it for hydrogen production. We started projects in the US in 2016 itself. I was part of the electrolysis process a long time ago, but the thing is that the technology could not be pushed forward beyond certain extent because of the cost of the electricity. That has become a huge bottleneck as of now. And in addition to that, CapEx is certainly a long-term bottleneck for the countries like India, where the development of the technology isn't there, it's all going to be imported. At the same time, the membranes, the catalysts, or even the electrode materials which are going to be using precious metals. So that's the reason why that has been put to rest for some time though, but once we see the feasibility of bringing it to commercialization, we'll be pushing that technology. But the one which was shown in the video is totally different. So let's move on to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. So as everyone is aware, the global warming thing, which as my earlier speaker, Mr. Mehta mentioned, Europe has seen for the first time in 100,000 years the hottest July month. And wildfires is kind of unheard thing in Europe. In US, it was a bit common thing, which I could see in the southern west part of California or even Arizona. But Europe is quite unheard. That happened this year. Canada is another crazy thing that went on. And in India, I'm sure you must have been seeing already for the past couple of years, dramatic changes in the climate, heavy rains, drenching the cities, heavily, unpredictable rains. All these are the aftermath of this global warming. And it just started, I would say, for the past few years. So the CO2 emissions is certainly has gone beyond the bearable levels, I would say. And at the same time, the temperatures have gone up. And now the fossil fuels, which are non-renewable, they're also on the verge of getting depleted. So every country has just now realized that, they have to make a transition into the either renewable or some sort of technology which could be used in the long run. Next slide, please. So in that process, obviously solar was at the forefront, and different countries started to implement the technology a long time ago. And but why suddenly this hydrogen has become now the issue? Because the cost of the renewables has come down quite a bit, as Dr. Vich mentioned in the very beginning. And in addition to that, global warming is there, and carbon sequestration also has become one of the ground reality in the practical life. So things started to roll in the direction. But hydrogen certainly is providing the ground for conversion, the transition to the carbon-free technologies. But still, we are in the gray segment. Next one, please. So if you imagine how the hydrogen is going to be taking over the other technologies, not completely, that's highly impossible. Even at least for the next century, I would say we have to still rely on coal and even other fossil fuels. But we could cut down their role to some extent, and where you start to use renewables extensively and then use extra electricity for generation of hydrogen that could be utilized either for power segment or even other industrial applications. But having said that, if you look at the European nations, they are already into green, mostly based on either nuclear or even wind power, or to a great extent by solar. So that transition has to be occurring in the countries like US, India, and even China. Then, you would start to see the fruits of the whole transition, because these are the three nations which are really emitting lots of CO2 into the atmosphere. Next, please. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but hydrogen is certainly one of the best fuels because of its gravimetric energy density, at least 2 to 2.5 times more than what the fuels that we have been using for a long time. Next slide, please. Next, yeah. And volumetrically, there are some certain challenges with the hydrogen, because, if you want to use it, then the high pressures are really required. Then it would make some sense, but otherwise you have to go with weight only. And when it comes to applications, you have several. Next, please. I'll just skip few things because those have been already discussed in by my previous colleagues. So if you look at the hydrogen economy, it's slowly going to grow, and while that's going to happen, the fossils are going to come down, and hydrogen is going to be utilized in the power segment in several industries. To name, there are a few listed there, but eventually it's going to providing the energy power to the power grid as well. Next, please. So this classification I'll skip now. Next, please. Whichever the technology it is, what you could commonly see is you had to produce hydrogen, then you have to find a mechanism storage. That's really there under high pressure conditions as of now, but then it has to be transported either through tubular vehicles or even through underground pipelines. Then it would go to the customer. So that is a long way to go for building the infrastructure. In between, if you see any groundbreaking technologies where you develop the technology in such a way that you produce hydrogen, then utilize it right away. That is going to have some edge, at least for some time, I would say. I don't know in the long run how it's going to be, but unless you show the commercial viability and the price cutting down to $1 to $1.5, then only you will see a few years competition between these two segments. Otherwise, it won't be possible. Next one, please. Please skip that. Next. So this is also a pretty simple one. Next one. So as of now, the transportation segment is not utilizing much of hydrogen because it's still causing lots of emissions. The transition is more into the transportation segment toward EVs. But now EVs also pose certain challenges due to the recycling issues or even the manufacturing part. And if you put that aside, other segments like methanol production, refining, they heavily rely on hydrogen. If we could find a way out, replacing the gray hydrogen with green, we could cut down the emissions to a great extent, including in cement industry. You see lots of CO2 emissions, even power generation. Next one, please. Next. So I think one of the previous speakers also just showed this. What are the current developments? Hydrogen could be used in the fuel cells and internal combustion engine vehicles. Fuel cells are going to be certainly the best option because of its efficiency and the cleanliness of the technology. But capex is pretty high, and the technology is monopolized only in few nations. But IC is something that is coming up as of now, even by Cummins. Cummins is the company which makes heavy vehicle engines, truck engines and all. In India, Reliance, in collaboration with Ashok Leyland, developed this truck. But the other challenge we might see in the long run with IC is they could even release some NOx gases. Although you'll be using hydrogen, during the combustion process, if you're sucking the air into it, it's going to result in the NOx emissions. Next, please. Toyota, of course, yeah, Toyota has developed the FC, fuel cell-based vehicles already, and even recently in 22, Germany demonstrated the hydrogen train that was developed by French company TGV. It's Alstom, I think. Okay. Next one, please. These are pretty known. I'm sure you must have seen heavily these in the news. You have a container which is going to contain hydrogen up to 5.606 kgs in the cars, and that pressure would be around 700 bar. That's the pressure that you need. Currently, CNG uses only 200 bar. You could imagine getting to 700 bar would make it quite hazardous in terms of collision. When you meet with an accident or something, that's a hazardous thing. That's the reason why we rather took a different direction while developing our technology. The Green Excel, with the company which we started, we produce it and use it on site directly, instead of storing or even transporting, doing anything. And that all, you can control the flow rate and everything. So here, you also use a battery for secondary applications. So we are also working in this segment where while producing hydrogen itself, we could generate electricity, and this could be used as a genset sort of thing, or even in the automobiles, it could parallelly serve both the purpose. Hydrogen supply along with the electricity without using the batteries. Batteries are very beautiful technologies, but heavy in weight. So that's always, of course, these batteries are going to be smaller than the EV batteries though. In EVs, it would be weighing close to 1.2 ton or so. Here, they would be at least 100 kgs or so, in that range. But so when you cut down the weight of the vehicle, again, you'll get good fuel efficiency. That is something one has to keep in mind all the time. Next one, please. And MF Hydro is Norway, which demonstrated the first reactor ferry of the hydrogen. And there are a couple more coming up in the European nations. They demonstrated the functioning of these vehicles. And our technology can be excellently retrofitted on the ships and yaks, where you don't have to really rely on getting any water supply or even production of hydrogen or anything. You don't need to go with solar. Don't even think about storage. You just take the seawater, develop it, produce hydrogen, and use it right away. Of course, you'll get some byproduct, that's a different thing, but you could even get pure water for drinking and all on the cruise ships. Next, please. So even Germany and Japan basically are working on developing advanced class submarines using the hydrogen fuel now, and which are going to be eventually coming, and very soon by 24 or 25. That is the timeline, but there is some delay due to COVID, I guess. So they're expecting to be demonstrated by 24 or so. Next one, please. Hypersonics is a collaboration between Boeing and an Australian company. They are trying to develop, hypersonic jet, hydrogen-based airplanes. Even next, please. NASA, even Boeing are into this game. Airbus is slightly ahead of Boeing doing this. Next one, please. But all these are based on fuel cell, not using ICs. ICs is Cummins and Toyota are heavily working on. And this is another one. In addition to this transportation, the hydrogen can be used for cooling, even for heating application. This is a micro genset sort of technology which could basically take the fossil fuels sort of thing and then produce hydrogen and even electricity, and it generates heat as well. So, but these are portable technologies mimicking the gensets. So you could see the things are coming up in different segments of the business or even the customer avenue, where hydrogen is slowly crawling in and trying to capture, I would say. Next one, please. So this is, of course, the best one, okay? Not the, I wouldn't say best, but the biggest one rather, okay? It's certainly the best, but it is the biggest one. See, all are working on producing green hydrogen for different applications, but South Korea is quite ahead of the rest of the world for setting up this power plant for production of electricity just using hydrogen itself. They have already commissioned 2 plants and they are planning for 2 more. So in addition to the generation of electricity, it also produces heat, so they were using the heat for household or domestic heating of water and all, okay, using this technology. Next, please. Now, let's come back to India. In India, green hydrogen as of now doesn't really have any contribution in the industry sort of market, but what is being projected on the right side, if you see the picture, other types of technologies which are in play. By 2050, I would say they're saying almost equal contribution from the green hydrogen and the rest of the technologies together. So it's going to take up a good chunk of contribution. But as of now, if you see on the left side, it's POX or even SMA are the major contributors, but those are going to slowly come down as we expand ourselves into green hydrogen. Next, please. So what's really happening? Industrial gases, and I mean, excuse me. This is not with respect to green hydrogen. It is internally with respect to hydrogen. So industrial gases, rocket fuels, they're already being implemented. I mean, hydrogen is being already implemented in these segments. Now, lately, you could see household fuel cells or even vehicles, 4-wheelers. Even now, the hydrogen power generation, or even then I would say buses have come. Even India also, Pune, there is a company which developed the fuel cell bus. So in the future, most likely you'll be expecting to see hydrogen being used in the industrial environment, like forklifts or other segments, and even portable fuel cells. And 2-wheeler, 3-wheelers has a long way to go, though. Next one, please. How the technology is slowly crawling into different segments, that's what I'm showing here. And on the, as per the Indian demand, we have around 6.7 million tons of hydrogen demand, but India wants to become a self-sufficient country in the future, and especially focusing more on hydrogen part, where by 2030 or so, India is planning to produce 5 million tons per annum. And later on, it wants to become an exporting nation, though. And it has a good potential. There are different countries which are already into play, but it's not based on the green hydrogen. It's using other segments. By 2030, green hydrogen market is expected to be 8 billion. By 50, it would be 340. So you could imagine it's not even few folds, it's several folds it's going to grow. And how the technology is going to crawl in, it's going to be more into the industry segment, the middle one, if you see on the right side, the blue segment, where the hydrogen is going to be slowly creeping into the industry segments, ammonia, methanol, as my colleagues who spoke about the green ammonia and all. Then it's going to take up the power segment, and of course, after 2030 onwards, you might see something in the transportation also. Of course, there are some vehicles, but they are not completely into green yet. So I'm talking about only the green hydrogen coming into the marketplace here. Next one, please. How different areas of India is being focused to develop this hydrogen production, especially the coastal belt, which is going to help in import and exports. So that's why most of the coastal regions are being focused to develop this technology, except Rajasthan and even Madhya Pradesh, maybe part of West Bengal, I guess. Next, please. Next. Yeah. So the historical progress says that, okay, we are around, in blue hydrogen is around 0.6 to 0.6 million tons of hydrogen being produced as per 2015 and 18 though. But where the second yellow color one shows where we are heading, and third is where we need to be between 2030 to 2050, okay? So I could see a good progress coming up, but still there is a 2 to 3 fold of difference between our target and what is going to be achieved in the next few years, or at least a couple of decades, I would say. That's the case in every segment, whether it's electrolyzers or even green hydrogen using renewables or even other segments. Please, next. So this is again this pretty similar one what I just talked about, how different technologies.
You can conclude.
Yeah, I'll just complete. Okay. Yeah. Next one, please. I'll be done. So as Mr. Vivekji was talking about, how some impositions are going to be put on the industries, how the industries have to be slowly shifting toward hydrogen in order to bring the country to carbon neutral. There are certain impositions on the companies. Whether it comes to the production of hydrogen or ammonia or even steel or whatever the product may be, because they want to slowly make a transition. That's a restriction which government is already imposing on different segments of the business. Okay, next one, please. I'll just quickly glance through. So I was looking at even the worldwide thing. GCC, Gulf countries, the Council of Gulf countries basically is focusing heavily to even beat India or even other nations to become exporters. And the green hydrogen, as per their projections, it's going to be catching up by 2050 quite heavily. Okay, next one. Next slide, please. And this is the chart they prepared, which countries are going to become self-reliant and which are going to become exporting nations, which are going to be importing. So you can see India is very well placed in the self-sufficient countries instead of becoming dependent on. I mean, what I could see is the relationship between the area of a country and the becoming self-sufficient. Smaller countries are never going to achieve that part, at least for sure, even if they're in the very well developed nations, okay, like European nations. Next one, please. So this is the last one. So what's really happening is everyone is talking about green hydrogen, but when it comes to real implementation and the policies, those need to be conducive, as all the prior speakers and even Dr. Garg, everyone said the current government is really working very hard toward pushing the technology, but sometimes I see that some of the let's say green hydrogen policies, when I see, I felt like they were more kind of in favor of supporting bigger companies, because the policies were showing that, okay, if somebody wants to start a green hydrogen company, it's more like, okay, the company should have had an experience of at least this much hydrogen already produced to get an incentive from the government. So I don't know if I may be wrong, but I would like to know what are the missing points for the startups here, how the government is really going to be providing any incentives or even support. But at the same time, based on my personal experience in the Western nations or even Dubai and here, of course, we want to become the exporting nation at some point. So we are working very hard, but at the same time, how fast we are going to catch up with other nations is going to play a role. And the implementation is always a big challenge with the big countries. So with that, I would conclude my talk here. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
attention
Thank
and
you.
really appreciate it.